I never intended for my life to spiral into this tangled web of deceit, but here I am, standing at the precipice of my own making. My name is David, and I lead a double life. By day, I am a devoted husband and father in the bustling city of Chicago, where my wife, Sarah, and our two children, Lily and Max, fill our home with laughter and love. But by night, I am a different man entirely, a man who finds solace in the arms of another woman, Mia, in the quiet town of Madison, Wisconsin. It all started innocently enough. I was working late one evening when I met Mia at a conference. She was vibrant, full of life, and her laughter was infectious. We shared a few drinks, and before I knew it, I was drawn to her in a way I hadn't felt in years. The thrill of that initial connection was intoxicating, and I convinced myself that it was harmless, a fleeting escape from the monotony of my daily life. But as the weeks turned into months, what began as a casual affair morphed into something deeper. I felt a lump form in my throat as I looked at her, the woman who had given me so much love and support. "Yeah, just work stuff," I managed to say, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. I wanted to tell her the truth, to confess everything, but the fear of shattering our family held me back. Instead, I settled into the familiar routine of our evening, pretending that everything was fine while my heart raced with the weight of my secret. As the days turned into weeks, the tension between my two lives grew unbearable. I would wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, haunted by dreams of Sarah discovering my betrayal. I could see the hurt in her eyes, the disbelief, and the anger. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, grappling with the reality of my choices. I was a man divided, and the guilt was suffocating. Mia, too, was struggling. Our conversations became more fraught with emotion, each one tinged with the knowledge that time was running out. "David, I can't keep waiting for you to make a decision," she said one evening, her voice trembling with frustration. "I deserve more than this." Her words cut deep, and I felt a surge of anger mixed with sadness. I wanted to scream that I was trying, that I was caught in a storm of my own making, but instead, I sat in silence, feeling the weight of her expectations pressing down on me. The conflict within me reached a boiling point when Sarah planned a family trip to visit her parents in Ohio. It was a chance for us to reconnect, to strengthen our family bond, but all I could think about was the time I would be away from Mia. I felt like a puppet, strings pulled in two different directions, and I was terrified of what would happen when I returned. Would Mia still be there, waiting for me? Or would she finally decide to walk away, leaving me with nothing but the wreckage of my choices? As we drove to Ohio, I forced myself to engage with my family, to be present in the moment. I watched as Lily and Max laughed and played in the back seat, their innocence a stark contrast to the turmoil raging inside me. I felt a pang of sadness as I realized how much I was risking. I was betraying not just Sarah, but my children, who deserved a father who was fully committed to them. Yet, the thought of losing Mia felt like losing a part of myself. The trip was a blur of family dinners, laughter, and the warmth of my parents-in-law's home. But beneath the surface, I was a man on the edge, teetering between two worlds. I found myself sneaking away to check my phone, hoping for a message from Mia, a lifeline to the life I had built with her. Each time I saw the screen light up, my heart raced, only to plummet when it was just a notification from work or a message from a friend. On the last night of our trip, I stepped outside for some fresh air, the cool breeze a welcome relief from the suffocating weight of my thoughts. I dialed Mia's number, my heart pounding as I waited for her to pick up. "David," she said, her voice a mixture of relief and frustration. "I've been waiting to hear from you. What's going on?" "I'm here with my family," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I miss you, but I can't just leave them." The words felt like a betrayal, a confirmation of my cowardice. I could hear the silence on the other end, the weight of my indecision hanging heavy between us. "David, I can't keep doing this," she said, her voice breaking. "I love you, but I need to know where I stand. I can't be the other woman forever." Her words echoed in my mind, a painful reminder of the reality I was trying to avoid. I felt anger rise within me, not at her, but at myself for putting us both in this position. "I know," I replied, my voice thick with emotion. I don't know what to do." The uncertainty was paralyzing, and I could feel the walls closing in around me. I was losing control, and the thought of facing the consequences of my actions filled me with despair. When I returned to Chicago, the weight of my choices felt heavier than ever. I was back in my familiar surroundings, but everything felt different. I could see the cracks in my carefully constructed facade, and I knew it was only a matter of time before everything came crashing down. I tried to focus on my family, to be the husband and father they deserved, but my mind was consumed with thoughts of Mia and the life I had built with her. One evening, as I sat on the couch with Sarah, I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. We were watching a movie, but I was only half present, my mind racing with thoughts of Mia and the impending storm of my double life. Sarah leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder, and I felt a pang of sadness mixed with shame. How could I betray this woman who had given me so much? How could I continue to live this lie? David, are you okay? Sarah's voice broke through my thoughts, and I turned to look at her. There was concern in her eyes, a flicker of doubt that made my heart race. You've been so distant lately. Is something bothering you? I opened my mouth to respond, but the words caught in my throat. I wanted to tell her everything, to confess my infidelity and the turmoil that had consumed me, but the fear of losing her, of shattering our family, held me back. Instead, I forced a smile and nodded. I'm fine, just tired from work. As the days passed, the tension in our home grew palpable. I could feel Sarah's unease, and it gnawed at me. I was living in a constant state of anxiety, waiting for the moment when my two worlds would collide. I was terrified of what would happen when the truth came out. Would Sarah be able to forgive me? Would my children understand? The uncertainty was suffocating, and I felt like I was drowning in my own choices. Mia, too, was becoming increasingly frustrated with our situation. Our conversations were filled with tension, each one a reminder of the choices I had yet to make. David, I can't keep waiting for you to decide, she said one evening, her voice laced with desperation. I love you, but I need to know if you're going to choose me or your family. Her words struck a chord deep within me, and I felt a surge of anger mixed with sadness. I wanted to scream that I was trying, that I was caught in a storm of my own making, but instead, I sat in silence, feeling the weight of her expectations pressing down on me. I was torn between two lives, two loves, and the thought of losing either one felt like a death sentence. The conflict reached a boiling point when I received a call from Sarah's best friend, Lisa. David, I need to talk to you, she said, her voice serious. It's about Sarah. My heart raced as I listened to her words. She's been feeling really down lately, and I think she suspects something is off. You need to be honest with her before it's too late. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air, and I felt a wave of panic wash over me. I had been so consumed with my own guilt and shame that I hadn't considered how my actions were affecting Sarah. I had to make a choice, and the thought of losing her was unbearable. But the thought of giving up Mia, of losing that part of myself, felt equally devastating. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling as the weight of my choices pressed down on me. I could hear Sarah's soft breathing beside me, and I felt a pang of guilt so sharp it nearly took my breath away. I was betraying her, the woman who had stood by me through thick and thin. I was betraying my children, who deserved a father who was fully committed to them. But the thought of losing Mia felt like losing a part of myself. The next day, I made a decision. I would meet Mia one last time, to tell her the truth and to finally confront the reality of my situation. I drove to Madison with a heavy heart, the weight of my choices pressing down on me. As I pulled into the parking lot of our usual cafe, I felt a mix of dread and anticipation. This was it, the moment of truth. When I walked inside, Mia was already waiting for me, her expression a mixture of hope and fear. David, she said, her voice trembling. I've been waiting for you. I could see the tension in her shoulders, the uncertainty in her eyes, and I felt a wave of sadness wash over me. Mia, I need to talk to you, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I can't keep living this lie. Her eyes widened, and I could see the hope flicker in her gaze. I love you, but I can't keep hurting Sarah. I can't keep hurting my family. The words hung heavy in the air, and I could see the pain etched on Mia's face. David, please don't say that, she pleaded, her voice breaking. I love you. I thought we had something real. I know, I replied, my heart breaking. But I can't keep doing this. I have to choose my family. The finality of my words felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I watched as the hope in Mia's eyes faded, replaced by a deep sadness that mirrored my own. I had made my choice, but the weight of that decision felt like a crushing blow. I had chosen the life I had built with Sarah and our children, but in doing so, I felt like I was losing a part of myself. Mia's expression shifted from shock to anger, and I could see the tears welling in her eyes. "You're making a mistake, David," she said, her voice trembling. "You can't just walk away from what we have. We were happy together." Her words struck a chord deep within me, and I felt a surge of regret. I had been so consumed with guilt and shame that I hadn't fully acknowledged the love we had shared. "I know," I replied, my voice thick with emotion. "But I can't keep living this double life. It's tearing me apart." I felt a wave of despair wash over me as I realized the magnitude of what I was giving up. I had to let her go, but the thought of losing her felt like losing a part of my soul. Mia looked away, her gaze fixed on the window as if searching for answers in the world outside. "I can't believe this is happening," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought you were different. I thought you would choose me." The pain in her voice cut deep, and I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. I had led her on, given her hope, and now I was shattering her dreams. "I'm so sorry, Mia," I said, my voice breaking. "I never wanted to hurt you. You deserve someone who can give you their whole heart, and I can't do that." The tears streamed down her cheeks, and I felt a deep sense of loss. I had made my choice, but it felt like I was losing everything. As we sat in silence, the weight of our shared pain hung heavy in the air. I could feel the finality of the moment, the realization that this was the end of our story. I reached across the table, taking her hand in mine, and for a brief moment, we were connected in our shared sorrow. "I will always care for you," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You will always have a place in my heart." Mia squeezed my hand, her grip tight as if she were trying to hold on to the last remnants of our love. "I don't want to lose you, David," she said, her voice breaking. "But I can't keep waiting for you to choose me." I felt a wave of despair wash over me as I realized the truth in her words. I had to let her go, but the thought of doing so felt like a death sentence. As we parted ways, I felt a sense of emptiness wash over me. I had made my choice, but the cost was steep. I drove back to Chicago, the weight of my decision pressing down on me like a heavy shroud. I had chosen my family, but in doing so, I felt like I had lost a part of myself. When I returned home, I found Sarah waiting for me, her expression a mixture of concern and relief. "David, I was worried about you," she said, her voice soft. "I'm glad you're back." I felt a pang of guilt as I looked at her, the woman who had stood by me through thick and thin. I had chosen her, but the weight of my betrayal hung heavy in the air. "Everything's fine," I said, forcing a smile. "Just needed some time to think." As we settled into our evening routine, I felt a sense of unease settle over me. I had made my choice, but the shadows of my past lingered, a constant reminder of the life I had left behind. Days turned into weeks, and I tried to focus on my family, to be the husband and father they deserved. But the guilt of my betrayal weighed heavily on my heart. I could see the cracks in my carefully constructed facade, and I knew it was only a matter of time before the truth would come to light. I was living in a constant state of anxiety, waiting for the moment when my two worlds would collide. One evening, as I sat at the dinner table with Sarah and the kids, I felt a wave of sadness wash over me. I watched as they laughed and played, their innocence a stark contrast to the turmoil raging inside me. I wanted to be present, to enjoy this moment, but the guilt of my past loomed over me like a dark cloud. That night, as I lay in bed beside Sarah, I felt a sense of despair wash over me. I had made my choice, but the cost was steep. I had lost Mia, the woman who had brought excitement and passion back into my life, and I felt the weight of that loss like a heavy stone in my chest. I turned to Sarah, who was peacefully asleep beside me, and I felt a pang of guilt wash over me. She deserved a husband who was fully present, a man who cherished her and our family without the shadows of betrayal hanging over him. But how could I reconcile the love I felt for her with the emptiness I felt from losing Mia? Days turned into weeks, and I tried to bury my feelings, to focus on my family and the life I had chosen. I threw myself into work, spending long hours at the office, hoping to distract myself from the turmoil within. But no matter how hard I tried, the memories of Mia lingered, haunting me in quiet moments. I would catch myself daydreaming about her laughter, the way her eyes sparkled when she smiled, and the warmth of her embrace. Each memory felt like a dagger, a reminder of what I had lost. One evening, as I was cleaning up after dinner, I found a small note tucked away in the pocket of my jacket. It was from Mia, a simple message that read, "I'll always love you, David. No matter what." My heart sank as I read her words, and I felt a wave of regret wash over me. I had made my choice, but the cost was steep, and I was left with a gaping hole in my heart. As the weeks turned into months, I tried to rebuild my life with Sarah, but the shadows of my past loomed large. I could see the cracks in our relationship, the moments of tension that arose from my lingering guilt. Sarah would occasionally ask if I was okay, if there was something bothering me, and I would force a smile, telling her I was fine. But the truth was, I was anything but fine. I was a man divided, caught between two worlds, and the weight of my choices was suffocating. One evening, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, I felt a wave of sadness wash over me. I looked at Sarah, her face illuminated by the flickering screen, and I felt a pang of guilt. She was so beautiful, so loving, and yet I had betrayed her trust in the most profound way. I wanted to tell her everything, to confess my infidelity and the turmoil that had consumed me, but the fear of shattering our family held me back. But then, something shifted within me. I realized that I couldn't continue living this lie. I had to confront my past, to face the consequences of my actions, and to seek forgiveness not just from Sarah, but from myself. I had to find a way to heal, to move forward, and to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. The next day, I sat Sarah down and took a deep breath. "There's something I need to tell you," I said, my voice trembling. "I haven't been honest with you, and it's time I come clean." I could see the concern in her eyes, the flicker of fear as she braced herself for what was to come. "I had an affair," I confessed, the words spilling out like a dam breaking. "I was unfaithful to you, and I'm so sorry." The silence that followed was deafening. I watched as Sarah's expression shifted from shock to disbelief, and then to pain. "How could you do this to me, David?" she asked, her voice breaking. "I trusted you. We built a life together." Her words cut deep, and I felt the weight of my betrayal crash over me like a tidal wave. "I know," I replied, tears streaming down my face. "I was selfish and foolish. I let temptation cloud my judgment, and I hurt you in the process. I can't take back what I did, but I want to make things right. I want to rebuild our trust, if you'll let me." As I spoke, I could see the hurt in her eyes, the betrayal etched on her face. But beneath the pain, I also saw a flicker of something else, hope. "I don't know if I can forgive you, David," she said, her voice trembling. "But I want to try. I want to understand why this happened." In that moment, I felt a glimmer of hope. I had taken the first step toward healing, toward rebuilding the life I had nearly destroyed. It wouldn't be easy, and I knew there would be difficult conversations ahead, but I was willing to fight for our family. I was willing to confront my past and seek forgiveness, not just from Sarah, but from myself. As the days turned into weeks, we began to navigate the rocky terrain of rebuilding our relationship. We went to counseling, where we learned to communicate openly and honestly about our feelings. I shared my struggles, my fears, and the pain of losing Mia, while Sarah expressed her hurt and anger.